You are now listening to the I Am Teflon John podcast show, where my job is to inspire you and change lives by provoking thought.
Previously on the I Am Teflon John podcast show.
And sometimes because we focus on the moment that we're in, we can't see the process that we're in. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're baking a cake, you know what I mean? Like, and you're on step number 6, it may be mixing the batter or whatever, and you're just focusing on how frustrated you are and it's taking so long. You're not thinking about the process you're in. That process is very important in baking a cake, is mixing that batter. And you're taking a lot of nasty ingredients that taste nasty separate. You're putting them together to make a sweet cake mix that eventually turn into a good cake. And sometimes that's how your situation is. You go through individual things, little situations, right, that seem very nasty, icky, and sticky, but at the same time, all these situations add up in the end for your good.
Teflon John.
Hey, it's your boy Teflon John, and I'm coming to you courtesy of the I Am Teflon John podcast show, where my job is to inspire you and provoke thought and try to change lives one person at a time. And I just want to get you thinking. I just want to get that process started where you're thinking about how can I become a better person? You know, what decisions do I have to make to live a better life? So, you know, it's all about that dialogue. And I want to give you guys a chance to just visit my website, www.iamteflonjohn, that's spelled JOHN.com, where you can listen to all these episodes, and you can look up the I Am Teflon John podcast show on Google and iTunes, and you can actually follow my show, and you can subscribe to my show. Right now, I just want to thank you guys for listening. I want to thank everybody that's under the sound of my voice. With this podcast episode, I'm going to be giving away 2 free tickets to Regal Theaters. You know, you can use them wherever, as long as it's a Regal's movie theater. You can use these tickets, and basically all you have to do is share this, comment on it. You know, when I do my Facebook thing, share it, comment on it, and inbox me to let me know that you've done those things. And it just helps get this podcast out. It helps grow my show, but ultimately it helps affect someone's life, hopefully in a positive way. But we're going to get into it. And today's show is about how to overcome fear, right? So fear is one of those things that when it comes to that dialogue and that conversation, right, you got to strip down. We got to talk about it naked. You know what I mean? And I mean removing all pride, you know, because if you come to a conversation with pride, nothing's going to get accomplished because you're not going to admit that there's a problem, right? But when it comes to fear, right, we got to think about what exactly is fear. And fear is almost like a crippling agent, you know. It's almost like if someone gave you a strong sedative when it comes to you trying to accomplish your goals, or, you know, when it comes to you actually trying to get something done. It's like giving someone a paralyzing agent, you know, where you're still conscious, but you're just not moving. Fear actually stops movement. And so when we look at the definition of fear, right, fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that something or someone is dangerous, likely to cause pain or threat. And that's very interesting because when you're thinking about, you know, your goals, and when you think about things you want to accomplish, the end result is not going to cause you harm or pain or inflict, you know, any damage to you. You know, so let's look at that, the end of the definition: likely to cause pain or threat. Now, if you look at that definition for what it is, if you're trying to accomplish a goal and it causes you to, you know, speak in front of people, it causes you to get out that comfort zone, you getting up and just speaking in front of people, right, it's not going to cause harm to you. It's not going to cause physical harm or bodily threat. But part of the problem is we're afraid to be humiliated, or we're afraid to fail, right? And when you're talking about success, failure is a part of success, but it takes a lot of failures, right? It takes a lot of falling to add to one success. You know what I mean? Like when you see the end goal, you imagine any invention like the microphone I'm using. I'm pretty sure when someone wanted to invent the microphone, they had plenty of failures, and we never hear about them. Why? Because the microphone was actually invented. So they could have tried 2,999 times and failed, but we don't know about it because on that 3,000th time, they actually created the microphone. So what I want you to do is look at that. But part of overcoming your fear, right? Number one, we have to recognize exactly what you fear and what triggers it. And and with that, you have to have an honest conversation with yourself before you consider talking to anybody, right? We got to have that honest conversation with yourself and realize that, hey, I'm afraid of this, I fear that, and this is why. So when you got to look at what triggers it, sometimes people can trigger your fear. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can be around someone that just speaks that negative and gives that negative energy and negative vibe to you, that gives that I can't, that makes you say I can't, because they're always telling you what you can't do. They're always speaking from your limitations. You know what I'm saying? So really watch the people that you're around. But this is going to require honesty and transparency. So you're going to actually have to sit down and be honest with yourself to see what you are afraid of and why. And some stuff can stem from childhood, or someone talking down to you, or something that happened when you were young. And look, you'll never overcome this fear until you admit that it is fear that you're feeling, because it's almost like the person that we view as an alcoholic, right? No matter how much they have the symptoms, no matter how much they display that they can't handle alcohol, they don't have a problem until they admit they have a problem. So with that being said, you have to admit and own up to it and be honest. They say, hey, I have a fear when it comes to XYZ. I have a fear when it comes to speaking in front of crowds. I have a fear when it comes to, accepting change or doing something new, stepping out the comfort zone. So whatever that is, just write it down, right? And number two, you got to face the facts. You got to face the facts, right? Is you need to face your fears head on. You see what I'm saying? So if your fear is speaking in front of crowds, you may start small. You may start speaking in front of your family, but you have to do it, right? You have to meet it head on. If you have a fear of, if you want to be in a relationship and you're afraid to approach a woman, you have to do it. I mean, it's true that you may fail a couple times. It's true that you may get rejected. It's true that you may not have the best speech, but you're going to learn from it. Out of that first failure, right? You're going to build confidence that you can do it. And that's going to help break up that fear. And that's going to help by you doing it one time. It's going to help you kind of brush it off. It's kind of like riding a roller coaster for the first time. You're like, oh, man, your fear changed to almost like to a form of excitement, right? And then you're ready to do it again. But you got to get the first one over with. So like I said, meet your fear head on, right? And this is going to require you to be vulnerable, because you're attacking your worst thoughts. And so a lot of times fear manifests in your mind as thoughts, right? So you got to attack those. You got to meet them head on. Like, if you're afraid to get in front of a crowd, you may say, oh, I might stutter, or, they might see me sweating, or, but you just got to face it. Face it that these things could very well happen, and face that is always someone that's great in a position that you're trying to follow. So if you want to become a speaker, think about other speakers. They have, some of the same fears that you have, but it's just they don't show it because they get up there and they do it. And I'm pretty sure they mess up on a daily, but they don't focus on that. You know what I'm saying? Because they focus on that end goal. So you're just going to have to get up there and do it, right? Number three, I will have to say, cleanse yourself from negative thoughts. And sometimes you have to, in order to cleanse yourself from negative thoughts, you have to find out where these negative thoughts come from, right? And a lot of negative thoughts from just conversation and dialogue, even negative thoughts I had, the origin or the root cause is past life experiences. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may not have, been through whatever, so to speak. So like, for an example, you may not have gotten married, you may not be engaged, but because you've witnessed so many marriages crumble in your family and in your friend's life, it makes you have this overzealous fear about getting married or commitment. You see what I'm saying? You may have not fallen from riding a roller coaster. You may have not gotten hurt from riding skates, but because other people talk about it and other people's dialogue feed off of it, their experience becomes your experience, and then it cripples you. And that's another point within that cleanse yourself from negative thoughts is other people's experiences can hold you back. When I thought about being a personal trainer, right, I would never forget. I knew it was made up in my mind that this is what I was going to do. And I remember talking to this guy who was a personal trainer. He had a bad experience, right? But the the thing that really threw me off was when he got to actually talking about um, his whole experience being a trainer. I mean, it really turned me off. It really had me to the point to where I was like, man, this is not what I want. And it wasn't because I actually had the experience, because truthfully, I hadn't become a trainer yet, but because I was listening to every word he said. And let me tell you, had I listened to him, I wouldn't have became a trainer. I wouldn't be effective, and I wouldn't be helping as many people. But what I want to use that example to show you that you have to have the experience for yourself, and then make that choice of not to do or to do. Never go by somebody else's experience, because you don't know their mindset. You didn't know their motives or why they got into it, and you don't know why they didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's different. So when it comes from that, look, some fear comes from others' opinions also. A lot of them they don't have the know-how. They don't have the experience in the area. It's just that's their opinion. They've done research and formed an opinion on, the thing that you're trying to accomplish or the goal that you're trying to reach. So think about that too, right? Tip number 4, or number 4 of how to overcome your fear, right, is focus on what will be gained after you overcome your fear. I'm gonna say it again. Focus on what you're going to gain after you overcome your fear. It could be money. It could be advancement. It could be an improvement in a relationship. It could be boosting self-confidence. It could be an addition to the family. So you got to think about, like, if you speaking in front of crowds. Let's back up for a minute. Let's say you're in a financial bind. You have one main job, but the main job is not paying you what you need, but it's helping you get by, right? And and you like it, but it's so demanding you can't find time to work another part-time gig, another 20 hours a week, or for that matter, a full-time gig. But a speaking engagement will take you at a max time an hour, and you can possibly make $200 to $1,000 or $1,500 per speaking gig. So imagine how many speaking gigs you could actually fit in if you marketed yourself. Imagine how much extra money that would be. You could potentially quit your job. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at that end result, the end result has got to motivate you, because you got to see why you're doing this, right? And we focus on the why. Thanks to Simon Sinek, the why is going to be a driving force. So if your why is not big enough, right? If your why is bigger than your fear, you overcome it. But if your fear is bigger than your why, you're still going to be stuck, right? So when it comes to tip number 5, we're going to talk about reprogram your thoughts. You got to redo the way you're thinking, because the way you've been thinking, it's in a way of fear, right? You've been thinking about fear, and fear is kind of driving your thought process. And when you think about it, you got to view your fear as excitement. It's almost like getting on that roller coaster, right? As you get next in line, right? Then you're next in line, then you're up and getting in there, and you're getting all clammy and your heart start racing. You got to change that fear to excitement, right? And studies show that psychologically, the body and mind responds the same to fear and excitement. The psychological and the physiological response is exactly the same to that of excitement, right? So what you have to do is convert those thoughts of fear to excitement. You know what I'm saying? You have to make your mind, right? You have to become in charge of your mind and tell your mind that we're excited right now. And then you have to get all those thoughts flowing in the same area. Get them all flowing in the same direction. Get them all flowing in a positive direction. And trust me, once you reprogram the way you think, and it's not going to happen overnight, because you didn't start thinking negative overnight. And so you have to really focus on that end goal, and the end goal should help you reprogram the way you think. And reprogramming the way you think, it may cause you to have to hang around new people. It may cause you to have to watch new stuff on TV, or it may cause you to have to really be mindful of what you're actually letting into your mind, of who you're letting speak to you. Because I'm telling you, other people's experience and other people's opinions will change the way you do anything. And if you don't believe me, watch the news, right? You could have your mind made up that you're going to try to buy a house. You can have your mind made up that you're going to try to buy a new vehicle, invest in this, invest in that. If the news tells you that we're in a recession or the stock market crashes, everybody stops. Based on opinion. They may have data to show, but to be honest, during the recession and out of the recession, I was living the same as I did. I didn't splurge. Certain facts only go to a certain demographic, but you have to be willing to take the risk. Stop living in fear, right? And number 6, fear can make you think and force you into better preparation, right? So not all fear is negative. A lot of times you could be living life reckless, not taking care of your body, but go to the doctor and get a bad report. Fear will drive you and motivate you to do everything that your doctor's been trying to beg you. Everything, right? And one thing fear does is fear causes you to listen. You know what I'm saying? If it changes you in a positive manner, fear causes you to listen. Once someone's afraid, you ever seen those shows Scare Straight, where the kids are acting up and they're being disobedient, breaking laws at an early age, and they take them into the prisons, and they're all big and bad. But as soon as they run up on that right person and they put fear in their heart, then they're ready to listen, right? So fear can also be that factor in your life that helps you make a change. All right. And we're also talking about when you listen, right, you're starting that process of change, right? So when it comes to you wanting to change, the first step is just listening, gathering new information. After you listen, then you're ready to really program your thoughts. But I'm telling you, when it comes to fear, if you do some of these tips, if you take some of these tips to heart, right, and even share it if it's helping you. If you take some of these tips to heart, it may not work overnight, but over time, you're going to help overcome your fear. You're going to help, not anybody else. You're going to help because you have to want to overcome fear. In the first place, you got to want it. You have to desire it. And you have all the tools that you need to overcome fear. You have everything that you need. So I'm going to go back and kind of recap for everyone, right? One is you want to recognize exactly what your fear is, and what triggers it. 2, you got to face the facts and meet your fears head on. 3, you want to cleanse your mind, cleanse yourself from negative thoughts. And that includes your past experiences, other people's opinions, etc. Number 4, focus on what will be gained after you overcome your fear, whether it be money, advancement, etc. Number 5, reprogram your thoughts. View fear as excitement. Convert that fear to excitement. Convert that fear into a driving force. And number 6, let fear put you into a better mode for preparation. Allow fear to make you listen. Allow fear to drive you to become better. And, I'm really feeling this topic because a lot of people, I think, are stuck at jobs. A lot of people are stuck in relationships that they don't want to be in. A lot of people are not in relationships. A lot of people are not living in the houses that they should be living in because they live in fear. And I want to end this with, and I have a blog attached to it, how I overcame my fear with success. As a child, I had a stuttering problem, right? I took speech for maybe till I was in 7th, 8th grade. And I remember being in class and they would come get you for speech. So everybody was like, hey, where are you going? I'm like, man, I'm going to play Connect 4 and board games, man. We having a blast in there. Little did they know I was working on consonant sounds. I was working on syllables. I was working on my speech. And it was very embarrassing because if I didn't know you, I really was afraid to open up to you because the faces people would make when I started stuttering. And even doing this podcast, right? Part of my issue was I didn't want to do it because I would stutter. And so I really don't go back and edit that because I'm trying to motivate somebody. Like, even though I have a speech impediment, or even though I stutter, it's nowhere the way it was when I was younger, that you can still get stuff done. And so going through speech for years and years, and I remember, not wanting to read out loud, and I think it was like 7th grade. No, it was 6th grade. It was 6th grade. We had a substitute for the speech therapist, and she came to the class. And normally the actual speech lady, she would never say, hey, come to get Jonathan for speech. She would just say, Jonathan Smith, and that's it. because it was your right to privacy or whatever, so you wouldn't get picked on. Well, this lady came to the door and said, "Hey, I'm here to get Jonathan for speech," and everybody looked, and they knew I had a stuttering problem, right? But no one treated me differently. No one did. It was all in my head. Like the fear I had of people knowing, you know what I'm saying, was almost greater than the fear of me actually speaking in front of people. So one fear fed the other fear. And I'm telling you, once you overcome your fear with success, you'll feel a lot better. So fast forward, right? I become a personal trainer. Years after talking to people, motivating groups to lose weight, I wanted to become a motivational speaker, a public speaker. And, within a year, I got my first invitation to a speaking gig, right? My friend Victoria Watts was doing a fashion show. And in doing this fashion show, I was going to talk about the fitness segment. So when she called me, my first instinct was just say no, make up something, just lie and say you're busy. Because I was that afraid of talking in front of people because I knew I stuttered. I knew that I wasn't the best. But hey, look, this is my goal. This is what you want to do. So you know what I did? I said, yes, I accept it. And because I was so afraid, my preparation game was on point. I got my topic, I got my bullet points, and I rehearsed it. But let me tell you, I may have stuttered once or twice, but I was up there with 3 other speakers that did this. Like, that's what they did. They spoke. And I used my personality and charm. I used my sense of humor to make people laugh. And they actually thought I had been a speaker for a while. And I told them, no, this was my first speech. This was my first presentation. But it was so crazy because that feeling of accomplishment was greater than the amount of money that I was paid to do the gig. Because I'm like, yeah, like, yo, I actually got it. I feel happy. Like, one of my biggest hurdles was public speaking. And now I know, like, if I wouldn't have done that one event, I may still just be wanting to get speaking in engagements. Since then I've done, plenty of speaking engagements. But hadn't it been for that one event where I just took it and hit the ground running, I would have probably never did one, because I'd still be saying, well, what if and what if and what if. So this is what I want to lift to you. Like, use these tips that I just gave you in this podcast to motivate you. Let that be thought-provoking, where you sit back and think of how you're going to overcome your fear. Because I'm telling you, sometimes that fear is holding you back from a different lifestyle financially, a different lifestyle physically, mentally. So, just sit back and listen to this episode. Share this episode with at least 5 people, 5 of your friends, your family members, your coworkers, right? And try to motivate other people. But just remember, fear can be a good thing if it's treated like excitement, if you reprogram your thoughts. But fear can be bad if you allow it to be a crippling agent to stop you from going after your dreams. Everyone has a bad experience. Everyone. But don't let that one bad experience stop you from experiencing life. And that's all I have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I hope you're really feeling this message. Please share it. I hope you guys have a blessed and prosperous week, day, night, whenever you're listening to this. If you're on the sound of my voice, I just want to let you know that, someone cares for you. I know it's near the holidays, but someone cares for you. Focus on gratitude and just keep it moving. Keep it moving. I'll see you at the top. And as I always say, one love, be blessed.